Welcome to A Healthy Dose. I'm Julie Stautland, and today we're exploring the foundations of naturopathy and how this holistic approach can transform your wellness. Naturopathic medicine focuses on treating the root causes of illness, supporting the body's natural healing ability through nutrition, herbs, lifestyle changes, and more. Did you know that nearly 8 out of 10 Canadians, 79%, have used some form of complementary or alternative therapy in their lifetime? And over 3,000 licensed naturopathic doctors are now helping Canadians across the country take a more proactive, natural approach to better health. Joining me is Dr. Andrea D'Angelo, a licensed naturopathic doctor and nutritional expert to help us understand the many benefits of naturopathic care. Okay, well, so much to talk about today. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and let's just jump right in there. Can you share a little bit
Thank you
about
for
your
having
background?
me.
Yes, so glad to have you come on here, and I really want to first find out a little bit about your background and what first inspired you to become a naturopathic doctor.
Great place to start. So my background, I did my undergrad at the University of Guelph in biological science. So I was always very interested in science, biology, chemistries. So that led me to my undergrad at Guelph University, biological science. But I was very interested in health, wellness, nutrition. And I couldn't take enough nutrition courses. So any elective I had the chance to take, it was going to be nutrition. And I was a couple courses shy of a minor in nutrition. So I ended up minoring in nutrition and nutraceutical science. And I'll never forget, it was in my fourth year. So I was humming and hawing, always very interested again in health, wellness, nutrition, kind of the overall holistic approach. And I was applying a lot of these principles in my daily living. And in our fourth year, we had a guest speaker who was a naturopathic doctor come into one of my nutrition lectures. And she was explaining the profession. And I thought, wow, I'm already applying so much of this in my daily living. I would love to teach others about this. And so right from there, I applied to CCNM, so Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine, in Toronto. And that was an additional 4 years of
Wow,
naturopathic medical care. So that's really what got
a
me
lot
into
of
it. It was kind
education.
of
So you focus
a lot.
particularly on women's health, nutrition, metabolic health, and hormone optimization. So what drew you to these areas? You said you couldn't get enough of it. What was it that really drew your attention to these areas?
Yeah. Nutrition, I couldn't tell you. I was fascinated by all of the areas of nutrition, and I was always fascinated with fueling myself in healthier ways, and teaching everyone else. But when it comes to women's health, I think throughout that I started to focus a little bit on that when I was in my naturopathic degree. So it was just we had to cover a lot, right? You can imagine
Right,
4 years.
absolutely. Yeah.
And if I told you the amount of courses we had to take, you wouldn't believe me. So we did cover a lot, but anytime we are focusing on women's health, hormones, fertility, a lot of these areas I was always drawn to, as opposed to when we had to cover the men's health. Nothing against any of that,
Yeah.
but I was much more drawn to the women's health side of
And
things.
I think it's wonderful because obviously it's an overlooked area. And I think it's interesting too. You say you took so many courses because, some people might think, well, how in depth is, this area of care and is it really that important? And to say that you had to take so many courses really says a lot. There's a lot to learn there. We only have 30 seconds, but can you quickly tell me what's a typical day or patient journey look like in your practice?
Yeah, so the initial consult is an hour, so it's very lengthy, and we cover every area, right? So past medical history, current concerns, anywhere from digestion, sleep, stress, nutrition, exercise. And then I'm typically ordering blood work as well. So that
That
I
wraps it
like
up
to have
right
a
there.
baseline.
Yeah. I mean, that covers a lot of areas right there, but we're just tipping the iceberg here. So stay with us, everyone. We're going to dive in after the break. We're back with Dr. Andrea D'Angelo. Let's start with the basics. So, viewers who may be unfamiliar, what exactly is naturopathic medicine and how does it work? You just touched on your education, but let's talk about what is this and how does it work?
For sure. So, naturopathic medicine is really addressing the root cause of illness. So, we love to find out the why, right? As opposed to just the symptoms. Another thing we do really well is preventative medicine. So,
Mm.
it's not to say that we don't cover acute conditions, but we're really good at preventative medicine, healthy aging, longevity. But back to kind of the root cause, we really go into detail. So I briefly covered what a typical appointment would look like,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't even, as you mentioned, tip the scale of what's going on. So one of the main differences as well with naturopathic medicine is typically we have a lot of time, and in the initial consult it's an hour long, as I mentioned, right? So
Mm.
we're able to uncover so many areas, not only what's currently happening in that individual, but history. Like I mentioned, we're really going into every area. I call it like, a lot of the pillars of health. So, what's movement looking like? How's your stress? How's your sleep? How's your nutrition, digestion? So, we're able to really hone in on a lot of these areas as opposed to just addressing that concern, right? Because all in all, we understand that all of these areas, they're all intertwined and likely all play a factor in what's currently presenting.
I think that's one of the really positive things about naturopathic care is the fact that you do take such great care in making sure you get a person's history and really look into all areas of their body and what's going on to see where there may be any connections, because it really does help you in knowing how you can then take steps to whatever issue they're dealing with. It isn't just an in and out. I think that is very important for people to know that this isn't whimsical. This isn't just a quick in and out, but you really do want to know what's going on with that particular person. So I assume then this isn't to replace conventional medicine, but would you say it is meant to work alongside or complement? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely compliment. And I think that I'm glad we're touching on this because I wish everyone understood that it's not meant to replace. I don't think we even could replace, and that's never the goal, right? I think the best care, and I hope seeing, movement forward would be this collaborative medical model where there's naturopathic doctors working alongside nurses, nurse practitioners, medical doctors, chiropractors, physiotherapists. We really do see probably the most success when we're working collaboratively together. And I think conventional medicine is absolutely brilliant and we utilize them when we need to. And I think naturopathic medicine is also brilliant. And we're able to spend the time with the patients, whereas maybe you're not given that time with your medical doctor. And so
Mm-hmm.
then we can kind of do the back end diving into a lot of the lifestyle, right?
Right.
Addressing more of the nutrition. So they work seamlessly together. I just wish that that message could get out to more people so they understood that.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for people to understand too. You talk about getting to the root causes because sometimes when you do just treat symptoms, uh, you can be treating symptoms for years, and if you find that root cause, sometimes that can be a big surprise. You're like, oh, I didn't know that was causing all these other things to be out of whack. I think that's really important. Now we've only got less than a minute left, but I wanted to ask, what type of tools or therapies do you commonly use in your practice? For example, you talk about nutrition and supplements and lifestyle changes. You also mentioned blood work.
Yeah, absolutely. So for starters, I'm always running blood work unless someone has recent blood work done, just because it gives us a great baseline. And yes, I use supplementation, but I am a much more minimalist approach to that. I like to utilize what research and what we actually need and what's going to actually work, right? So a lot of my job is actually taking people off, the laundry list of supplements they're taking. So I like a targeted approach, looking at their lab values, always building on the foundation. So nutrition, again, lifestyle, supplementation, and specific herbals sometimes.
Many people are curious about the real world benefits. So let's talk about results. Andrea, what are some of the biggest benefits people experience when they incorporate naturopathic care into their health routine?
That's a great question, a loaded question, because I do feel like I would say the interesting piece is sometimes if someone is coming in with a specific concern,
Mhm.
let's say digestion issues, right?
Right.
Yes, they'll see improvements in that, absolutely, if we're doing our job correctly. Um, but they're going to notice other areas as well of improvement. So that could be improved energy, improved sleep. There's so many areas that they'll see additional benefits, and they'll report back like, wow, I feel maybe more clarity, mental clarity. My
Right.
energy is more stable throughout the day. So I would say, even when someone is coming in with a specific concern, because we're uncovering so many areas of their health, and like I mentioned, because so much is intertwined and connected, they're able to see improvements in all of these other areas that they maybe weren't,
Didn't even know they were going to
they
receive
didn't
some
know
side
that they had.
benefits. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, you work a lot with hormone balance, weight management, and metabolic health. How can naturopathy help women and men who feel stuck with fatigue, weight issues, or hormonal challenges? I know that's a loaded
For
question
sure.
too, but
So it is. It's because we do so many things, right? Which is great.
Mhm.
I would say where they feel stuck, um, sometimes we're able to get to look at things from a different angle or a different avenue, let's say. So I do have a lot of people who will pick on weight management. So I
Mm,
do have a lot of people who, come back. I've tried everything. Maybe they are on medication as well, and it's still not enough. And
mm,
so let's dive in and look at, there's a lot of insulin resistance going on.
right,
And I would say a lot of people are struggling with insulin resistance. And so, can we address nutrition? Not the crash diets, right? Because again,
right.
I see so many people who have come off of yo yo dieting their whole
Mm.
life. And so I think that's another issue. Like, we're stuck now. We've
Mm.
tried so many things. They
Our
worked for a
body's
period of
upset.
time. Exactly. And so now we're able to, yeah, really get to the underlying issue of what's going on. So whether we're looking at insulin resistance, whether we're working on a more sustainable nutrition plan for a lot of that, let's say, stuck or resistant weight loss,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And when it comes to hormonal therapy, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, right?
Yes.
Because no, it's not required for everyone. It definitely depends, but it can absolutely help for, obviously, we'll take perimenopause and menopause.
Mhm.
These women, I would say hormonal therapy, the benefits often are outweighing the risks for these
Mhm.
women. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
don't know
in
if I even answered
Yeah,
that
no, you
question.
covered a lot there. So in what areas do you see the most dramatic improvements? Energy, digestion, stress, immunity, or something else?
I honestly want to say energy is a big one. There
Mm,
are so many people that I hear it so often. Oh my goodness, like it's really hard to get out of bed in the morning, or I just feel groggy, or no, my energy is pretty good in the morning, but I get that 3 p.m. crash. And
mhm.
I'm like, okay, I got you, right?
Right.
Because I would say I 9 out of 10 patients, this is the common I commonly see this, right?
Right.
And we can drastically make improvements for that person. Again, depends how we're fueling in the morning, right? If we're running
Mhm.
on nothing and maybe just coffee, of course, we're going to hit that 3 p.m. crash,
Right.
and we're going to want to
Mhm.
reach for that other cup of coffee. And then we do, and then we don't sleep well. And then it just kind of
Yeah.
snowballs. So energy is a really great one. I love to, depending on what kind of plan we're working out, when we're following up, I love to hear the people who are saying like, wow, I feel just so much better overall, like better habits,
Mhm.
more energy, more
Mhm.
motivation to continue forward.
All right. Well, we've learned a lot about the foundation of naturopathy and how it can really complement other areas of health as well. But Andrea, let's leave our audience with actionable advice. What are the top preventative strategies or daily habits you recommend for long-term wellness?
Oh my goodness. So it's going to sound pretty basic, but going on the foundations, I would say where we can see the biggest improvements: eat breakfast, eat a protein rich breakfast,
Hmm.
and move your body in one way, shape, or form. It sounds so simple,
Well, I guess if you think about our
but
culture, with the amount of sitting we do, with the amount of sedentary jobs we have, or even our rest time tends to be very, sedentary as well. That it sounds simple, but you're hitting the nail on the head on what we need, right?
absolutely. And I would say that's exactly the problem. Is it sounds so simple, right?
Mm,
But a lot of times we're not doing it. And that's to no fault. It's because our lives are so busy, and the world that we live in now, it is very go, go, go. So we're grabbing a cup of coffee and running out the door. So, what if we tried to wake up a little bit earlier and properly fuel our bodies? It sounds challenging in the moment,
mhm,
and it definitely creates, you have to kind of carve out that routine or that habit. But in the long term and in the long run, huge changes just from that. So another thing I do in practice is I make sure that it's very realistic and sustainable for that person, for that individual, because we all have different lifestyles, different jobs. So I've worked with nurses on night shifts,
oh,
teachers,
great.
you name it, right? And so we
Mhm,
have to tailor and, kind of individualize that person's treatment plan, let's say. And
mhm,
so when we're talking about breakfast, for example, it's one of the non-negotiables for me when I'm working with
mm,
people. It's definitely a starting point. And so that is something that people can just try right now, right?
yeah,
Again, sounds so simple, but we're
right.
not able to really do it. And we don't have to expect anything gourmet or anything complicated. Like,
Mhm,
let's just look at getting some protein in the morning
right.
and building a balanced
So would I
something,
would I be
right?
correct in
Fueling with
saying
something.
Would I be correct in saying that really this area of expertise helps people get more in tune with their body, and especially in our world of fast paced everything, but you're teaching them like, listen, you're feeling this right now, but if you take care of these areas and know your body, then you're going to feel a lot better. And if I'm hearing you right, and that doesn't just happen overnight either. It is a change that takes time and and being in tune. Am I correct in that?
Absolutely. So that's funny that you mentioned, getting more in tune with our bodies, because I have gotten so many people. One of my favorite feedback is when we work on something, let's say we're focusing on more protein and even just for starters in the morning, right? A nice
Mhm.
balanced protein rich breakfast. And following up, I've had countless patients who have said, wow, I was able, so I stuck to everything for, let's say, a week. And
Mhm.
then, the next week things got chaotic. I was on vacation. And that's when I really noticed how much better I felt when I
Interesting.
was incorporating, let's say, the protein rich breakfast, right? So sometimes it's
Mhm.
very challenging to see day to day. It does take a little bit of time, but it's it's astonishing when people fall off a little bit
Right.
and it's almost an additional motivating factor to get back to some of these healthier habits, right? Because we just feel overall so much better.
They see a little bit of improvement and they realize it is worth it if I stick to it. Well, listen, we're out of time, but I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about this. And I hope our viewers have learned a lot today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a
Mhm.
pleasure.
As always, check with your medical practitioner when you explore any new other areas, but naturopathic care could be of interest to you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Julie Stautland, and this is A Healthy Dose.